Hey Savvy people, it's Savvy Nick here, and today we'll be going through how to install the latest release of Debian 10, Buster. We'll first download it, then I'll explain how to flash it onto a disk, we'll boot that disk, and finally run through how to install it on an empty storage space of your choice. If you're new and stopping by to watch an install today, please take a moment to subscribe below and hit the notification bell for more installs. I'm here on the Debian.org website, where we're first going to download an ISO image of the installer for Debian. There's really two ways to do it if you want the quick and easy way. Up in the top right corner, you'll see the download Debian 10.3, which is the latest release. And this is for the 64-bit architecture, the PC Network Installer Edition. So you will have to have an internet connection for this install process. The other way to get it is to go ahead and go through these options here. If we select on the CD USB ISO images, we'll see that there's multiple mirrors directly using HTTP download. If we select the first option here, which is download CD, DVD images using HTTP, and then there's really two different releases, the stable and testing release. So the testing release is regenerated weekly as it says. So what we want is the stable release. So I'm going to go ahead and select that option. And a few things following up here is we have the CD and DVD versions. And then in each category, you have the different types of architectures that they're available for. But what we're most interested in is the AMD 64-bit architecture. This is for all 64-bit computers, and if you have one, this is the option that you want to go with. They do have 32-bit support for older computers. You can go ahead and look that up if you need it. Let's go ahead and hit the AMD 64, and then, but towards the bottom of this page is the actual downloads. So if we go to the bottom, we'll see that we have the Debian 10.3, which is the latest release, AMD 64, and then NetInst, which means Net Installer ISO. They also have the XFCE desktop environment available if you want to go ahead and download this instead, as well as the educational version. If you want that, you can read up on it as well. But what we're interested in today is the Debian 10.3 AMD 64 Net Installer ISO. If we click on this, this will launch our download. Now let's give it a few minutes to go ahead and finish that. And now that I've downloaded the ISO, I'm going to launch and use the Balena Etcher app in order to flash the image onto a USB or CD. So I'm going to go ahead and just type in Balena and launch it. Give it a few moments here. Balena Etcher is an easy-to-use application available for Windows, Mac, and Linux. I'll go ahead and put a link in the description below if you want to download the application. You can also use any other application that can create a bootable disk, such as UNetBootin or Rufus. The first thing we're going to do in Balena Etcher is select the image that we just got done downloading, which is right here in my Downloads folder. So I got the Debian 10.3 AMD 64 Net Installer version. So I'm going to go ahead and select that and hit Open. Next, I'm going to go ahead and select what device I want to flash the image onto. If you already have a USB inserted, it may or may not automatically go ahead and populate this. But what we want is to hit the change button. And if you have more than one USB, CD, or DVD in your computer, they will be populated here. Make sure that you select the proper disk in order to go ahead and flash this image onto, because whatever is on the disk currently will be erased in order to go ahead and flash the new Debian 10 installer onto. So all the data on that disk will be overwritten. So again, if you have multiple devices, make sure you are selecting the proper one. Once you've confirmed that you've selected the proper one, go ahead and hit continue. And finally, you're going to go ahead and hit the flash button. You'll be asked to give administrative privileges to Balena Etcher. Let's go ahead and do that. And after you flash the disk, you'll take it over to the computer or server where you want to install Debian 10 Buster on, and then insert it. Then you'll have to boot into your BIOS in order to change the settings around and select the newly created bootable disk to boot first. This is usually done by finding the correct key in order to boot into your BIOS for your particular computer. It's usually one of the F keys, like F2 or F10. Then you'll find a tab usually called boot order, and you'll exchange the order so that the bootable disk is first to boot. After you have that set up, you will save and exit out of your BIOS, and you should see a screen similar to this if you did everything correctly. If you went ahead and made it this far, please hit the like button. It really does help me out. Alright, and if you see this screen, you've successfully made it to the install portion. So we have a few options here. We can either go with the graphical install method or the install method that allows us to use a terminal in order to install Debian. As you can see up top, it's the UEFI installer version. So this will work with UEFI BIOS enabled computers. Let's go ahead and select the easier method, the graphical install method, and give it a moment to go ahead and load up. And the first thing that we're greeted by is the language selection, where we can select whatever language we want to use for the installer. So let's go ahead, and English is fine for me, so I'm going to go ahead and continue. Next, we're going to select our location. So I'm currently in the United States, so that's the location I'm going to select. Make sure you select whatever country or territory that you're currently in and hit continue. Following that, we get to select a key map to use. So whatever keyboard format that you have, they have plenty of different types. The default is American English, so that works fine for me. I'm going to go ahead and hit continue now. Following that, the system will just prep a few things here before we move on with the installer, so give it a few moments. And now it's just detecting a network connection, which will be necessary for this install process, since this is the net installer version of the ISO. If everything went correctly, you won't get an error and you'll be asked to configure your network. So that's what we'll do here. First, it's asking you for a host name. This is what's going to identify your computer on the network. So go ahead and let the other computers know what the name of this computer is. Mine will be Savvy Nick, that works for me, and I'm going to hit continue. If you have a domain name or one that you plan on using, you can go ahead and type it in here, but I don't, so I'm going to go ahead and hit continue. Next, we're asked for the root password, so let's go ahead and put that in, and then confirm it on the next line to make sure that things add up. And once you have your root password typed in and verified, go ahead and hit continue. Following that, you'll be asked if you want to go ahead and create a new user. I do, and my name is going to be Savvy Nick for that new user. I'm going to go ahead and hit continue. After that, we're asked for a password for that new user, so go ahead and type your password in and make sure to confirm it. After that, you can go ahead and hit the continue button again. Next, we're being asked about our current time zone. So today I'll be in Arizona, and hit continue. Following that, we're ready to go ahead and partition our disks. So there's really 4 methods here. You could do manually partitioning for more advanced users that want to set up the partitions by themselves. We have the guided method, which uses the entire disk, and a guided which also uses the entire disk but sets up an LVM, or logical volume management, which allows you to edit your storage space a little easier and create multiple volumes and pools of storage. Next is the guided method as well, with the entire disk setup and an encrypted LVM, meaning every time you log into the computer, you will be asked for a password for your encrypted drive. It's just a way to secure your data on the hard disk a little further. So you'll be asked for a password for the hard disk as well as your user password that you're logging in with. So I'm just going to go ahead and use the standard method, the guided with the use entire disk. Now with this method, we will be using the entire disk. Therefore, anything and everything on that disk will be erased in order to go ahead and make Debian its primary platform and use it completely as a storage device for Debian. So make sure that you have a storage device that you want to use that doesn't have anything on it, no data, or any other platforms, and then go ahead and hit continue. After that, you'll be able to select any disks that are currently located in your computer. I currently only have the one disk, and I know that this is the correct one because of that. If you have multiple disks, make sure that you do select the proper one because, again, as it says up top, note that all the data on the disk selected will be erased, so make sure you confirm you're selecting the proper one with no data on it in order to go ahead and install Debian on. So I'm confident this is the one for me. I'm going to go ahead and hit continue. Next, we're asked about how we want to locate our files in our partition. So I'm just going to use the recommended for new users. There's also separate partitioning schemes if you want to use them as well below. But the all files in one partition works great for me. I'm going to go ahead and hit continue. Following that, we just get an overview of what's going to go ahead and happen based on the options that we chose. And you can see here below how our disk will be partitioned. If we're confident that we selected the proper disk, then we're ready to go ahead and write changes. So you can either hit the undo changes to partitions or finish partitioning and write changes to disk. I have that one selected, and I'm going to go ahead and hit continue since I'm confident that I do have the right storage disk selected and I want to erase all the data off of it. After hitting continue, we're warned one last time about writing the changes to the disk. I'm going to go ahead and select yes and hit continue. Next, we're installing the base system here, so this might take a moment. Now we're getting the option to go ahead and add any other CDs, DVDs that we want so that the package manager can install any packages that we may have on those CDs or DVDs. If you had special firmware or something, this might be a good time to go ahead and put in that other CD, DVD, USB and scan it for packages so that the installer can install it while Debian is going through the motions. I don't have another CD or DVD, so I'm going to select the no option and hit continue. Following that, we're asked where our closest mirror country is, so this is where we're going to pull down packages from using our internet connection that's been detected in previous steps. United States, of course, is going to have the closest mirror to me, so I'm going to go ahead and select that one and hit continue. Following that, we're given a list of mirrors that are in that territory, so Debian.org works fine for me, the default, so I'm going to go ahead and select that one and hit continue. If you have any HTTP proxies that you would like to use, you can go ahead and specify it with this type of a format here. Otherwise, go ahead and leave it blank for no proxies, and I don't have one, so I'm going to go ahead and just hit continue. The installer will continue, and it'll take a few more moments to go ahead and finish some installing of software up. And following that, we're asked about if we want to participate in a package usage survey. I'm going to go ahead and select the no option, which is the default, and hit continue on this one. Alright, and here's an important step. It's the software selection step. There's different types of desktop environments that we can select from here to be installed with our Debian base system. Otherwise, if you don't select one, Debian will not assume that you want one, so it will only display a terminal after the install. So it's important that you go ahead and look at the different types of desktop environments. They have plenty available here, and then select the one that you like the most. Today I'm going to go ahead and go with KDE Plasma since I like using that desktop environment probably the most. Following that, there are a few more options if you want to go ahead and enable the web server and have Debian already go ahead and install all packages necessary for that. You can go ahead and check this box, a print server as well, or an SSH server. The standard system utilities is selected by default, and I do suggest going ahead and installing those because those are just your basic system tools that you will need to go ahead and do basic things inside of Debian. So the defaults here are fine, minus the fact that we do have to select a desktop environment, and I did that, KDE Plasma. Go ahead and once you've selected yours, hit continue, and then give it a few moments while the remainder of the system is now installed. Debian is a totally free Linux distribution, and because of the Debian community's focus on stability, it's one of the most reliable Linux distributions out there. Debian is also tailored for intermediate to advanced users, and is great for using as a server or a firewall setup. Debian mainly covers the middle ground, where the barriers of entry are large enough that some new users will steer away from this distribution, but its documentation and the helpful community should be a reason that new users decide to go with Debian. It's great for learning and expanding your knowledge on operating systems, and it makes for a great learning tool and a powerful one at that. Alright, and now that the installation is completed, while you're rebooting, you'll want to make sure to go ahead and remove any installation media that you may have so that you don't boot back into the live image of the system or installer of the system, or you'll have to reboot your computer once more and remove the installation media in order to get to your newly installed system. So we'll go ahead and hit continue, and while things are rebooting, you'll get the grub screen, which might automatically time out for you and select the first option, which is perfectly fine. I went ahead and canceled my timeout out, but I'm going to select the very first option, which is Debian GNU Linux. And now it'll take a few moments just to load into our desktop environment. And here I'm being welcomed by the user login screen, where I can go ahead and select my user. There can be multiple users, of course, and you can use the arrows to select whichever one you want, but SavvyNick is the one I want. I'm going to go ahead and put in my password and press the enter button. And in a few moments here, my desktop environment should come up. And it did, great. And if you see this screen, you've officially installed Debian 10 Buster. Congratulations and welcome to your newly installed Debian 10 desktop environment. Let's go ahead and just take a few moments just to go through what's on the desktop environment here. On the upper right hand corner, you have a few drop down options, either to refresh or show the desktop, add certain widgets, as well as look through activities, lock widgets, open the file manager, which is Dolphin, configure the desktop, lock the screen, and leave the screen. And in the bottom right hand corner, you have options to adjust the taskbar at the bottom. You can remove it and configure the height as well as the screen edge. You can also add widgets as well as add spacers. So I'm not going to really mess with it, just know that's an option. And then here we can see the current date and time, as well as if we click on it, get a calendar. Following that, we can click on the arrow, which just gives us status of notifications and other devices on the system. To the left of that, we have the volume control as well as the microphone volume control as well. You can also select between applications that are currently playing or recording audio and also manage the volume for them. If you have a hardwired connection to your network, you'll see it right here just like I do. And if you have a wireless connection, you will also see that here as well. You can go ahead and click on this and see if you want to go ahead and manage your network, either disconnect from it, put it in airplane mode, and select between different options if you click on the settings tab. Next we have the KD accessibility control. If you need various assistance, you can go ahead and use it here, such as the screen reader or to be able to read things off of the screen as well. Then finally, on the far left hand side, you have the start menu, which shows you the current person logged in. You can also search for things on the computer, as well as go through Conqueror, which is their default web browser, and system settings, the file manager, a text editor, and the package manager software center. Other applications are available here under the applications tab, which focuses on subcategories, and then in those subcategories you can launch various different programs such as the LibreOffice suite. Following that, we have the computer category, which allows us to look through the computer a little bit and see the places for the current user, so the home desktop of the current user, as well as some other directories, other things such as networking and network, if you want to go to that folder. And finally, in the history, we can see applications that we've launched before. As we haven't launched any applications, we don't see them. On the right hand side of that, you see leave, which allows you to reboot the computer as well as hibernate it, shut it down, and log out or switch a user from the current screen. Well, that's really it. I hope you enjoyed the installation tutorial of Debian 10 Buster. And if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, please post them in the comments section below. Also, make sure to subscribe for future videos and make sure to like the video. Thanks for watching.